So I just want to sit here and say this. Now, this is not to sell anybody out. This is simply what I've been through the last year. So I got a brain injury. There it is. So that goes to the very center of my head. Now, with that being said, essentially, I had a gymnastics accident March of 2025, and I was doing a front handspring on the railing, right? And I didn't push off when I was upside down to complete the rotation, land on my feet. I kept my arms bent like this. I went right into a metal bar on the railing, shook the whole railing. It was bad. I had a couple staples here, a couple staples off to the side. That one's always a pain to find, especially when my hair thickens again. With that being said, anyways, I don't feel like finding that one before I have a cigarette in my hand. Anyways, with that being said, I was homeless as of what happens to people with brain injuries, unfortunately, and which is a normality. And essentially, I healed on the street. However, due to people with brain injuries, you tend to lose your intelligence. If you're a very intelligent person, unfortunately, due to brain injuries, you lose your intelligence. And depending on where you damage the brain and where the main course of impact is, it has different side effects for everybody. So, mine was the prefrontal cortex and the top lobe of my brain, which essentially is responsible for cognitive ability, decision making, emotional regulation. And when those two parts of your brain shut off, you operate off of your temporal lobe, which your memory is stored in and is responsible for your five senses, and you also function off of your nervous system. So with that being said, with the harassment and with the fact that I couldn't use my prefrontal cortex and I couldn't use the top of my brain, which is responsible for, logical processing, emotional regulation, this, that, and the other thing. I said things that I shouldn't have, which was pretty much forced out of me through manipulation. So that was the unfortunate evidence of such. However, within the case that I am healing on a daily basis, within the case that I'm on a forward directional movement, from here on out, everything will be under my control. Previously, it was not for the last year. So my apologies for my prefrontal cortex dysfunction, functionality dysfunction. However, at the same time, what I said, was only to help me cope. And if you listened, cool. I just hope I didn't say anything wrong. Anything that, people could use incorrectly. I just hope I didn't. However, at the same time, what I was saying did help me heal. Regardless of if it was meant to be that way, for me, I was working towards it. It is besides the fact. However, I can't control what other people could do. I can only control what I do, to the extent of which I could, right? So in a forward direction, I was using, the goal was, when I first started the social media, was to use my memory and tie it back to my prefrontal cortex. And it would have taken a couple months, but I got slowed down because I got, I was living out in society. So essentially, I got held back a little bit. However, within the fact of the goal here, I wanted to talk about the memories I had, and then talk about, sing music, do goofy videos, and use, kind of a therapeutic structure behind my content to draw back to the prefrontal cortex as soon as the prefrontal cortex could come online, and then regrow it from there. For when it goes offline, it essentially, you stop exercising it, so it shrinks, so you got to re-exercise it. However, the fact of the matter, we're reaching succession within such of the brain injury healing process. And I'm glad you came for the ride, guys. Anyways, we're on a forward movement, like I said. Onward and out. So within the symptoms of prefrontal cortex functionality shutdown, I operated off of pure instinct, simply because, you know, when your prefrontal cortex shuts down, you know, and you operate off of temporal lobe, which is responsible for your memory and five senses, and your nervous system, you can only function off of instinct for whatever the instinct of your ancestors is. Mine is, I'm a protector. I protect myself and others, and that is my natural instinct, and I was functioning off my natural instinct. And as of the moment, I'm essentially reprogramming and re-strengthening, if you will, is a better way to put reprogramming, but re-strengthening the prefrontal cortex or prefrontal lobe. So right now is going back and forth between instinct and prefrontal cortex, with more functionality to the prefrontal cortex as the day goes on. So I'm getting calmer, if you will. However, you know, the fact that harassment has been a thing, I function off of instinct within that. So forward direction, guys, forward direction.